issues important to your life and faith. Spiritual insight, practical wisdom. Join us as we transform the world one woman at a time. Women of Grace, for such a time as this. Now, here's your host, Johnnette Williams.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Women of Grace Live. I am Johnnette Williams, absolutely delighted. I feel so special to be with you today. Yes, I do. You just make me so happy, and oh my goodness, I feel very privileged to be welcomed into your life via EWTN Radio. Women of Grace Live, as you know, is available for you Monday through Friday at this same time on this same station. We discuss issues of importance to your life and your faith, and we are always eager to hear from you today. I have been so happy with you this week, may I just say. I've been so pleased because we've had lots and lots of phone calls Monday and Tuesday, and I'm hoping for that today, though I know that so many of you are busy, but I figure, well, you know what? You're probably in your car out running around, getting last-minute supplies in for dinner tomorrow, or, you know, getting a few extra touches that you need to make the table look ever so pretty. I'm going to be dashing around after the radio broadcast for a bit this afternoon myself. So I figure, well, you know, you could be in the car, you could be listening. You may be able to tell your phone to give us a call to that 800 number and join us live here. So we do have a toll-free number for you here in North America, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. That's the way that you can join us live here, where we do love having that holy conversation with you. Please do tell Matt Gubensky that you are a first-time caller, because then I get to ring my bell for you, which welcomes you for your debut right here on Women of Grace Live. We do the same thing for you if you are a first-time submitter. Now, you can submit your question to EWTN Radio's YouTube channel right there in the chat feature. So get on out there, take a look. You're going to see that I'm with you today. I'm waving to you. You can see me there on YouTube, and pretty soon you'll be able to see Sue too. And we have an interesting thing that you'll notice right away if you're out there on YouTube. Anyway, all that being said, so much fun. We have Tom Price doing the call screening for us today, and I'm so excited about that. Please do let Tom know if you're a first-time submitter via YouTube, and we will once again ring our bell for you to welcome you for your debut. Same thing applies if you text us your question or comment. Text the letters EWTN to 58177. That's EWTN to 58177. Wait for our response, okay? And then tell us who you are, where you are, and how you're listening. And do know that message and data rates may apply depending upon your plan. So we are abundantly available to you in the moment, so to speak, right? In the moment. But you can also send us your questions or your comments. You can send them to us at womenofgrace@EWTN.com. womenofgrace@EWTN.com. Our producer, Rich Jesse, extraordinaire, will get those questions, and we will be able to address them on a day when we pull some of them out for discussion right here on the air. You can also leave a question for us 24/7. All you have to do is call this number. It's available to you all of the time. Country code 1-205-795-5773. It's going to be country code 1-205-795-5773 that allows you to leave your message. And one last number, just as if there are not enough numbers that I'm sharing with you today. If you're outside of North America, we welcome your call. Of course, you can reach us through social media, easy breezy. But we also would love to receive your call. That's country code 1-205-271-2985. Listen, I have got to tell you about something. So we have a very special type of an extravaganza program for you tomorrow. And I really, really hope that you will tune in and listen. I know you're going to be busy. I know. But, you know, you can just tune it on while you're preparing the turkey or whatever it is that you're doing. You can listen. It's going to be so lovely. I had the opportunity, Jack and I together, to talk with all of the members of the radio team there at EWTN Radio. And these are individuals that you might know the names of, like Rich Jesse, who's our producer, and Tom Price, who I mentioned, who is pinch hitting today, and he is call screening. You might know some of them because, you hear their names being mentioned. Ace McKay, another one, right? But, Matthew Gubensky, I mention his name all of the time. I mention our call screeners' names too. Michael McCall does call screening for us. Pedro Quiles does call screening for us. And today, Tom, as I said, he's sitting in there for everybody. But you don't really know them. Well, we had an opportunity to chit-chat with each one of them yesterday. They shared with us a little bit about their position, what they do. Oh, and I want to mention Greg Tapley. He keeps everything floating along. He's in traffic. You'll find out what traffic means in EWTN land tomorrow. And I'll tell you, we just had, I don't think I left anybody out. If I do, let me know, Rich. But, Greg Morrison. I'm sorry, I said the wrong name. It was Greg Morrison. Too many people, too many names. Greg Morrison does that traffic business for us, and I got to tell you, he does a fantastic job. But all of that being said, it was such an interesting program to find out, a little bit about how they got into radio, to find out a little bit about what their positions are at EWTN Radio. But also, we talked with them about Thanksgiving Day and what is special to them and what they're looking forward to and how they spend it and what their favorite dish was. And it was just, a lot of fun, and it's just a very, very special show. So I am hoping that you will tune in and you will take a listen tomorrow, right during this time period. Jack and I had a chance, as I said, to sit down with them. We did it yesterday in preparation for the show because, we're not, EWTN is really not quite open on Thanksgiving Day, sort of open. There are some positions, that are absolutely essential to every moment. But all of that being said, a special, special day just for you. 833-288 EWTN. That's 833-288-3986 is the way that you can join us here. Sue Brinkman is with us. It's Wacky Wednesday. We look forward to your wacky questions. Of course, we're not thinking about anything wacky at the moment in terms of the season that we're in. But there are wacky things that happen in this season, and we're going to be talking about the new hit musical movie that I know is probably going to take every Academy Award. We're going to be talking a little bit about Wicked, getting into that. I had an opportunity to see it with Jack over the weekend. Sue and her sister went to see it yesterday. We have some thoughts about it, and you might know that we would. We have some thoughts about it, so we're going to be sharing with you about that. But we want to hear from you. 833-288 EWTN. That's 833-288-3986 is the way that you can join us live here on Women of Grace Live. I do want to remind you to get out there to our website, womenofgrace.com. All kinds of good things happening. December 6th, coming up really soon. That is this Friday, coming up, not this Friday after Thanksgiving, but a week coming up. And that is our online Advent retreat, free of charge, for young women of grace. It's going to be a beautiful opportunity. And, it is focused on Our Lady. It's focused on her fiat. It's helping our young girls to understand what that means. But these are always fun events. So I'm inviting you to join us for that. It's going to be beautiful. I'm going to be there. I'm looking forward to being with all of those young women. I'll tell you, when I see them, my heart just soars. My heart soars because I know that there is so much grace that is available to our young people. And I look into the faces of these little ladies, and I know that they are receiving those graces. This is for 13 to 18-year-olds, basically, that age range. It'll be appropriate for all of them, and not too much and not too little. So I'm inviting you to join us. Just go to our website, womenofgrace.com. You can sign up right there. We're coming right back. I'm telling you, we're coming right back. We're eager to hear from you today. Stay with us.
For Word of God Wednesday, we're discussing the first Sunday of Advent and Soulful Psalm 25.
I'm Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, and I invite you to join me for Beacon of Truth.
This is Father Joseph Mary. EWTN wants to help you prepare for the birth of our Lord with Advent Reflections. When you sign up to receive our free ebook, Advent and Christmas Reflections, we'll send you a special Advent reflection each Sunday of Advent. It's our prayer that this will bring you closer to the infant Jesus and his Blessed Mother as we take our journey to the divine infant's manger. Visit EWTN.com/Advent today.
Now you can earn a certification in Catholic women's leadership through the Women of Grace Benedicta Institute for Women, which seeks to educate, develop, and train Catholic women to be leaders and mentors of the day by way of the feminine genius and their gift of spiritual maternity. Areas of study fall under 4 main themes: God and the human person, Mariology and the feminine genius, Carmelite spirituality, and Catholic women's leadership. Women in the certification program will be formed and shaped according to the heart and mind of Holy Mother Church in the fullness of the feminine genius, the Blessed Virgin Mary. Through spiritual and leadership formation, women will be imbued with the Marian character, confidence, and skill to bring Jesus Christ to the world and the world to Jesus Christ. If this interests you, learn more at benedictainstitute.com or call 800-558-5452.
Celebrating the precious gift of life, this is EWTN Radio.
Your favorite EWTN radio programs are all over social media: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, and they're available right now, on demand, day or night. Remember, EWTN is everywhere.
Well, there you have it. You hear that music. If you didn't know it was Wednesday, which I'm sure you do because tomorrow is Thanksgiving Day. It's always on a Thursday. If you somehow forgot, though, that lets you know that it's Wednesday. It's Wacky Wednesday on Women of Grace Live every Wednesday with our, she's got so many titles at the ministry. She is our researcher for the New Age. She keeps us abreast of breaking news when something important is happening. She'll write a blog about it. She also, is the what do I want to say? She's a teacher, and she is the host, and she is the coordinator for our book studies that we do. She does a whole lot, and her name is Sue Brinkman, and you know her. So I really want to encourage you to get out there to our website, womenofgrace.com. The New Age blog is there for you, as well as the podcast that Sue does. You'll find those in the library, and it's Grace Under Fire, Exposing the Darkness. Really great opportunities for you to research, questions that you have about the New Age. But we provide this program to you every week so that you can call in with your questions about things that you see out there that you need clarification regarding. 833-288-EWTN is the number for you to use. It's toll free for you here in North America. Again, 833-288-EWTN. Do give us a call. EWTN Radio's YouTube channel also there for you. We're looking forward to hearing from you from both of those opportunities, and you can text us. Text the letters EWTN to 58177. That's EWTN to 58177. Wait for our response. Tell us who you are, where you are, how you're listening, and do know that message and data rates may apply if you are texting your question to us. But without further ado, here is Sue. Good morning, Sue.
Oh, she's rhyming again today. I always know that's the sign. It's the sign it's going to be a wacky day.
It is
day
a
before
wacky
Thanksgiving,
day.
Sure. We should be wacky today, right?
We should be. Well, I just want to say
turkey.
Yeah, and for those of you on YouTube, you see what I was referring to, right? Sue and I did not consult each other on attire today. We did not. No. But we both ended up in red-ish, more rust red sweaters that are turtlenecks, and we look like twins.
Yeah, we both did. We both did the same thing.
I know.
Only I added my necklace when I saw you had your necklace, so I went and added mine. And it's very appropriate because today is the feast day of St. Catherine Labouré and the Miraculous Medal, and this is my mom's Miraculous Medal.
Oh, that is beautiful. That's beautiful.
And I love this. I totally love this medal. I wear it all the time. I thought, I'm going to wear this right now because then I'll match you perfectly. And so I do.
Well, I have to say, this is Our Lady of Guadalupe. Jack gave this medal to me as a Christmas present last year. Yep, and we got it when we were in Guadalupe, when we were at the shrine for our 20th anniversary. So it's very special to me, of course, because I love Our Lady so much, right? But also because Jack gave it to me. It's so sweet. Anyway, you look adorable and lovely. So
thank you so much. Same to you.
Well, thank you. Well, you know how we are. We are women, folks. What can I say? You know, this is the stuff that women talk about. Anyway, I could go on and on about that. I think I've had quite a bit of caffeine this morning, so I am wound up. But, you know, Sue, we've got some movies out there, and, you know, this is the time of the year when there are big releases, and we're going to talk about Wicked. But you made me aware of a movie that I haven't seen, so I can't personally talk about it there. But you have great concerns about it, and you said it's actually been banned in the Philippines, and it's called Dear Santa. Tell us about Dear Santa.
This just was released on November 25th by Paramount Plus, the big streaming giant, and it's a story about a little boy who misspelled Santa in his Dear Santa letter and wrote it to Dear Satan.
Oh dear!
And the letter is shown, tumbling down into hell, where Satan gets a hold of it, and he considers himself to have been summoned by the boy, and he appears to the little boy named Liam, and he says, you lucked out big time because I'm way better than Santa. He appears to him, and he gives him his 3 wishes. And then he adds at the end, by the way, after you make your wishes, I'm taking your soul.
Oh.
And Satan proceeds to thrill Liam with all these manifestations of all the magical things that he could do, including, helping the boy win at the casino, and then meet his favorite singer, Post Malone, at a concert. And then in the end, Liam wants Satan to help him do something kind, which frustrates Satan. And Satan says, I've tried everything. That kid's just incorruptible. Now, the end of the movie does give some hint of redemption there, but the whole movie is making Santa into this really funny, likable guy. I mean, Satan rather, in a funny, likable guy. I mean, who wouldn't want him? That he makes all these different things come true for this boy. He's really helping the boy out. The whole thing is a total distortion of evil, is what it is. It's making evil look wonderful. And the Movie and Television Review and Classification Board in the Philippines actually banned the movie outright. They cited the film's portrayal of Satan in a positive light. They call that an attack on fundamental beliefs of the Catholic and Christian faiths. And they gave it an X rating, which means that it cannot be screened publicly. You can only see that movie privately. And, the lady who's in charge of it, she said that, while we're fully supportive of our movie and television industry, they're mandated to uphold and promote respect for Filipino cultural values. And that's the same thing we should be demanding here for us. What about our values as Christians? You don't make Satan into this playful, funny character who does wonderful things for people. And who in the end, you might give this little hint about possible redemption when he says, I've tried everything to make this kid corrupt and he's just incorruptible. This is not the way we should be preparing anything. And this is going to be another one of these big Christmas movies. And I found it was horrifying. 1 million moms, this is really who brought this to my attention. They're calling upon parents everywhere to forego this film this year at Christmas, and to sign a petition, which I signed, and I give you a link if you want to sign the pledge too, stating that you will not watch the movie or support Paramount Plus unless they avoid airing satanic-themed programming.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's a good move. It's the only way to tell these people, look, you're not going to get our eyeballs, meaning our ratings. You're not going to get that until you start to give us what we want.
Yeah.
And that's good family programming.
So if people wanted to sign that petition, Sue, they can just go to our website. You've got that in a blog there. So you can go out and read more about that. But this is one of the things that really concerns me. And this has been a trend that we have seen, especially geared towards our youth, right? Now, that doesn't mean to say that it's not something that is going to be viewed by adults. It will be. And of course, the adult population gets mixed in there. But what we've seen happening, especially with youth literature and cinematic presentations that are geared for the youth, is we've seen this conflating of symbols. This is the thing that really upsets me. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean that, there are archetypes in literature, and, the protagonist in literature is always the good person. The protagonist in literature, in good literature, the protagonist is always, if you will, a Jesus figure, a savior. The protagonist is the good guy, right? Now, it doesn't mean that we're not going to see flaws in that presentation, because, of course, it is not our Lord, but it's a reference. So the protagonist in literature throughout the ages has always been the good person. And the foiler, the antagonist, is always the evil one. But what we've seen happening, and I guess maybe it started to happen before, but I'm not aware of it. When it first came onto my radar, it came on with Harry Potter. And we had this conflating of the symbol. And you know, on one hand, and in addition to the conflating of the symbol, there's also a confusion. There's a type of cognitive dissonance that's set up in the reader with Harry, and in some of these other movies, in the movies, Harry Potter movies and all of these others that we're talking about today. That cognitive dissonance is set up. And what is that? That means that, you know, basically you can't hold two concepts together at the same time. You can't have two opposing ideologies or perspectives being held by the mind at the same time and being equal in value. You cannot do it. What's going to happen is that the one will fall victim to the other. And in most cases, cognitive dissonance is something that can be that can actually be stimulated in a person, where it sets them up in this interior moral dilemma. And what we have is that our sympathies with Harry Potter, our sympathies went to Harry Potter. And we might say, well, he was a naughty boy, and he was, but you know, he only used his magic for good. That's what he really wanted. And, you know, and if he had to do things that he ought not to do to get the greater good, then that was okay. No, it isn't okay. It's not okay. And that's what sets up the cognitive dissonance. Because on one hand, you know, okay, he's not really good. But then on the other hand, your sympathy, your emotions are being played with, so that you get sympathetic to the character. And that's what you're saying about this character of Satan in the Dear Santa movie. You know, on one hand, you know it's Satan, but golly, look at how much fun he is, and he's this and he's that. So one of those two standards is going to fall in your mind, right? One of those two conceptualizations of what's being presented is going to fall victim to the other. And I think that that's the thing that most troubled me. Well, it troubles me in general, because that's dangerous. You know, we're living in that. Aren't we living in that in the moral soup of our day and time, where, you know, it's okay. It's okay for people to, you know, try to become a gender that they're not. It's okay for boys, for men, you know, biological men who are born biological men, because they say that they're transgender. They think they're a woman, which in another day and time, I think at least to a greatest extent, a more morally balanced day and time would say, I need to help this person because this person is suffering from delusion. But no, today we say, no, it's perfectly all right. So it's okay. So how do we hold that together? We don't. One is going to fall victim to the other. When you make the evil character the victim, you make the evil character the one who really, you know, you see your sympathies going toward, it becomes very dangerous. And I chatted on and on and on, but apparently I feel strongly about this.
It's true. It's very, very true. And it's something that, you know, years ago, we did a show with Michael O'Brien.
Yes,
I remember us doing this show together on EWTN about Harry Potter and the paganization of culture, and this exactly what you're describing here. This is what's wrong with it. Yeah. You know, the problem is not so much that magic is presented in the book, but how that magic is presented.
That's right.
And the Potter books and all these occult fiction that has now come after Potter turns magic into a kind of tool by saying, oh, you can just use it to do good things. The same magic you use to do evil, you can do good with that. And it flips the moral order on its head in the mind of children. Right. Children, they can't make certain distinctions that the more, even in adolescents, I don't think can do it. Teenagers,
I don't even think really adults can do it. I mean, adults can't sustain it for any length of time.
And when you make this person who's either evil in themselves or using evil, and I'm dating back now to, hey, what about Bewitched? What about I Dream of Jeannie?
Yeah.
There's some people who study this who say this is really when it all started, was back in the 60s, when they started to try to make witchcraft seem like it was okay. And they started to introduce these sitcoms that everybody loved them. They were considered family shows. And what was it doing? It was gradually desensitizing the human mind and the human psyche to the evil of witchcraft, the use of magic, which is sorcery. That is all over our kids' books now at this point.
That's right.
All over it. And I could remember back when Potter first came out in the late 90s and the early 2000s, how they mocked us when we said, this is what's going to happen. You're going to have kids growing up very involved in this occult stuff because they're not going to see anything wrong with it anymore because this is what they learned from Harry Potter. Right. And they laughed at us, right? And now look at it.
Yeah.
And we're not laughing now. I'm not going to say who's laughing now because we're not laughing about it. I think it's terrible what's going on right now with young kids. There's no literature for them that doesn't have it in it.
I know.
In one way or another. So we do have a blog out there called about fantasy. If you look up just fantasy, and it'll tell you the difference between Christian and occult-based fantasy, because we get a lot of questions about this, Johnnette. How do I tell the difference? How is it good? Like Lord of the Rings, the Chronicles of Narnia, how are they different from Harry Potter? And that blog will explain it to you. Just look under fantasy in the New Age Q&A blog, and it'll hopefully explain things to you so you'll be able to do a good job of screening your child's literature, their games, their movies, because it's everywhere. Sorcery is the big thing. This is just everywhere. If it doesn't have sorcery in it, the kids don't like it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that article because it gives me an opportunity to remind all of you that this blog is comprehensive. You mention a topic or you mention a subject that has to do with the occult, that has to do with Eastern Oriental mysticism, that has to do with the New Thought or the Human Potential Movement, and you're going to find your answer there. And if you're going to look at the various manifestations of these things in our day and time, then if you like the therapies and the practices and the weird stuff that comes up that passes itself off as exercise, you're going to find articles about that. So it's there to help you. You can get there directly. Go to newage.womenofgrace.com, and it'll take you directly to the blog. Or you can access the blog via our website, womenofgrace.com. It's right there on the homepage. You'll see Q&A, New Age Q&A blog, and click, and it'll take you right there. And there's a search feature there, as Sue was telling you about putting fantasy in. So you have the capacity to do that. The other thing I think that's so dangerous about this, Sue, is that it sets up. It sets up. The word that's coming into my mind is salacious, but it kind of stimulates, a morbid curiosity in these things. And I can bet you any money that what you're going to see, and we'll spend a little bit more time talking about Wicked in a moment, but I think that what you're going to see next year, of course, is when it comes to Halloween, you're going to see all of these costumes, and it's going to be indicative of the movie, and it's just it just troubles me, and I think that it's because we've spent so much time on this, decades really, researching this stuff, and we've watched. I think that we've been very observant in noticing over these many decades. For me, it's been over 3 decades. Noticing this infiltration and saturation of the culture with what we would call post-truth. We hear post-Christian a lot. That's true, but this is post-truth. Truth is a moral absolute. Truth is all rooted in Jesus Christ, who is the truth. And this is beyond that now. There's not even a hint or a smell of that, which is good, true, and beautiful, and much of this. Coming right back, stay with us, 83328. What am I giving you, 833? I'll get it to you on the other side of the break, 28.
EWTN Radio is growing. Are you an experienced radio producer looking for an opportunity to help forward Mother Angelica's mission of evangelization? We need a passionate, multi-skilled, talented professional who can manage all aspects of producing world-class radio programming. You could be the newest member of the EWTN radio family. If this is you or someone you know, email a resume and cover letter, including salary requirements, to human resources at EWTN.com.
Discover the beauty, truth, and goodness of the church. With the EWTN online learning series, you can delve into the riches of the faith and grow closer to the Lord with free videos and study guides. Each EWTN online learning series is a collection of videos that features the faithful content you have come to trust from EWTN. Enjoy the practical wisdom and insights of Mother Angelica's book, In His Sandals, in this 6-part online book study with EWTN chaplain, Father Joseph Mary Wolfe. Make sense of the chaos with our Savior, Jesus Christ. Enroll in the EWTN online learning series free courses today at learningseries.ewtn.com.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
A very wonderful woman I knew had 4 children, and all 4 died. And somebody went up to her one day, and they said, "Oh, what a pity." And she said, "Oh, no, what a blessing." If we don't begin to look at everything with the eyes of Jesus, you will become helpless and hopeless.
For more information on Mother Angelica, visit Religious Catalog at EWTNRC.com.
Join in on the conversation. The Women of Grace phone lines are open. 1-833-288-EWTN, 1-833-288-3986.
Welcome back, friends. You're listening to Women of Grace Live. I'm Johnnette Williams. Very, very happy to be with you today. So excited to have this opportunity to have Sue with us the day before Thanksgiving. We're not talking about Thanksgiving today. Tomorrow, on our program, we're talking all about Thanksgiving as you get to know the various members of the EWTN radio team via our program. So I'm really encouraging you to listen tomorrow. It was an extravaganza, really. It was just so much fun to sit and talk with all these people whose names you may or may not know, but who really are the ones that make these programs happen. I mean, the hosts show up and we sit in front of the mic, so we participate too. But without their technical expertise, without their capacities in radio, then these shows wouldn't go out. And for me to have had the opportunity to introduce them to you, I think we hit every single one of them. It was really a lovely, lovely moment for me. So I want you to listen because you're going to enjoy it. Now, I do want to put a disclaimer out here as we begin to discuss Wicked. I want to put a disclaimer out there, and here's the disclaimer. The disclaimer is that this is part 1. And when this was a Broadway play, this movie that we're seeing now, when it was a Broadway play, it was the first act. Then there was intermission, and you came back for the second act. So we haven't had the opportunity to see part 2, which isn't going to come out until next year, which I think is regrettable because I don't know exactly what's going to happen to who I think has emerged as the main character, and that is Elphaba. But we don't really know. She is the Wicked Witch. We don't know what's going to happen there. We don't know because the way that this is structured is this movie is presenting us with the time before Dorothy arrived in Oz. So this is it's sort of like the precursor to Oz. So we don't know. All we know is that the house ends up on the Wicked Witch in the West. We know that from The Wizard of Oz, but we don't have a hint of that at the end of this movie. So everything we're saying is about that. But I think it holds true with regard to the conflating of the symbols. So Sue, share with us a bit about all that.
Yeah, the book is just, the movie rather is just stunning. The visuals are just out of this world. The cinematography, the music, the dancing. The one thing I liked about it is
costuming.
The costuming is so fabulous. And I just love the idea of all these young people being able to see a good musical. because they don't make
Yes.
them anymore, you know?
Yes,
And
it's
this is
true.
a really good musical. Great music score and all that. Just beautiful. But, and I warn people, um, the film is riddled with mixed messages about good and evil, and it should concern parents. And it's something you really need to sit your child down and talk to and say, listen, Oz is all make believe. This is really not what good and evil, or this is what good is, and this is what evil is. Make it very clear to them what it is, because as you said, Elphaba is presented. She's the Wicked Witch now, in the most sympathetic of terms. She's the offspring of her mother's adulterous affair. And she was born with green skin, which made her be shunned by her families and all her family and her friend and that. And Glinda, is going to be the good witch, on the other hand, she's presented as spoiled, vain, flighty, shallow. That got me right from the beginning. Why are we doing that? Because Elphaba obviously has all kinds of occult powers. She's got all kinds of powers, and Glinda has not shown any indication of any powers yet, but they're both being schooled at Shiz University, which teaches sorcery to aspiring witches and wizards.
So it's like
we have all that.
Hogwarts. Yeah.
Yes. So of the two of them, Elphaba is really the more compassionate and caring of the characters. She's really the main character, I think, in the whole thing.
She is. And she's the protagonist.
She is. She's the one. It's her idea to take up the cause of the deer animals, and they show you this cute little lion cub in a cage, and of course you're going to feel sorry for that. She takes up their cause that they're all being silenced because animals in Oz could talk, and some of their professors at the university were actually animals, and that. So right away you're on her side. You want to be on her side, and I think it's funny because I sat in a row where it was all teenage girls, ranging in age, I would say from 11 and 12 all the way up to maybe 14, 15, 16 years old. And me and my sister are at the very end of the row. But the whole row were these young girls. And what I really didn't like about it, I didn't like the ending of this one because it's a very dramatic finale. Elphaba, who now at this point you see she's got all kinds of magical powers, she mounts a broomstick and she makes this very glorious departure from Oz to help these embattled animals. And soaring music score, she's singing, she's clothed in these billowing black robes that just make her look fantastic. Her whole figure, the whole scene reeks of power and purpose. And what was that doing, Johnnette? There she is in her witch's hat. It's glorifying the witchcraft that she intends to use for this noble purpose of rescuing the animals. And meanwhile, Glinda, she took up the Wizard of Oz's offer that said, hey, if you don't go against me, because it turns out the Wizard of Oz is the one who was doing this to the animals. If you don't go against me, I'll give you a nice position here and a great place to stay in Oz. Well, Glinda goes with him. And it's Elphaba who goes to rescue these animals. So at this point, Elphaba is the good guy in the story.
Yeah.
But there she is dressed as a witch with the hat. That's not lost on young teen girls who are already way too enchanted with witchcraft and how glamorously it's presented on social media. We all know about that. We've been talking about that for years here. Especially at that age, the idea of controlling spiritual powers is the perfect antidote to the feelings of powerlessness that are so typical of those years, those teenage years. Yeah. And the idea that they can acquire that power through witchcraft is a very dangerous message to send to young girls. And I'll tell you why it's dangerous, right? Because it works. That's why it's all over social media, because that's what they say. You can be empowered by witchcraft. Let that empower you, to give you the power that you need to be who you truly are. I mean, this is how it's presented to girls. Very mixed messages here. And I bring in a couple of different voices here. One of them is a reviewer from the Gospel Coalition, and he said that even if the story helpfully praises the costly pursuit of justice and fighting for the marginalized, i.e. the animals, in the end, its rejection of moral absolutes leaves audiences without real hope or clarity.
Yeah.
So the moral issues, however well-intentioned, they're ultimately very incoherent in this movie and very unhelpful. That's the problem. When you have a movie that has the bad witch acting like a good witch and a good witch acting like a bad witch, that's turning the moral order on its head in the mind of a child. It's a problem. It's a problem. Parents need to be careful if they go see this movie with their kids.
Yeah, yeah. I find there's a lot of it too. I think that is innuendo that's in the movie, and it's not so hidden. Obviously the gay agenda is there, front and center. You've got transgendered munchkins and all of this. So it's overlaid with a lot of political kinds of stands that we see being taken here in the culture of the day. And it's not, it as I say, it's front and center. So there's all of that comes to play. There's also the whole issue of when it comes to children's literature, anthropomorphism is not something that's uncommon, attributing to animals human qualities and traits. But when it's put into the context of something like this, where what we see is that the animals are the marginalized group, or at least what's perceived to be the marginalized group. And I suppose within the context of the story, it truly is. We do want true social justice. There's no question about it. We do have a stewardship responsibility for the earth and for the things of the earth, including the animal kingdom, right? But when it's overlaid with so much of this, then it just becomes another way of trying to confuse human with animal. We have enough of that, where you have various groups today that want to assign to animals the same rights that human persons have. Well, how do you even do that? They're not intelligent, so how could they even have any concept of a right or how they would use a right? So so there's all of this that is weaved into this, and I find it reprehensible. The thing that really disappointed me, Sue, is that the Catholic reviewers were tepid, and that's your word, they were tepid at best. And America Magazine, of course, just thinks it's wonderful because it's just riddled with all of these, these issues that, America Magazine often takes a stand in favor of. So there's just a lot there, So I was disappointed from that. And I, too, found that one article that you cite and extract quotes from in your blog from the Gospel Coalition to really kind of match what my concerns were when I walked out. Now, that being said, I am going to see part 2 because I have it on very good authority that part 2 is very important to see, and so that you see the whole story. And I think that's only fair. So I will go see it. But I'm sad that in the Broadway play, you saw the first act and the second act, and there was an intermission in between. But in this movie, the intermission is a year. And of course, we know that's Hollywood does that because they're going to make that exponential amount of money again next year. Whereas if it was all packaged in 1 year, they're not going to make that kind of money. That's what it was. But I remember when you had epic films like Gone with the Wind, Sound of Music, and you went to the theater to watch, and there was an intermission, and you came back, and it was like 4 hours long the whole day, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It was so much more fun because you got the whole story. And this way, we don't really have the whole story. We just have the beginning of the story. Because remember, this is before Dorothy arrives in Oz.
Right.
As you were saying in the very, very beginning of this particular talk here. That happens before she even gets there. This is the backstories of the good and the bad witch from the movie. And Elphaba being the bad witch and Glinda being the good witch. So, but the other thing that bugged me too, and this always bugs me, and I probably doesn't bother anybody else, but it bugs me that they even make a distinction between good and bad witch. Yes. A witch is a witch. It's almost like saying black and white magic. There is none of that. There's nothing like, there is no distinction that way. Just like there's a witch is a witch. She's, regardless what she's doing with her magic, whether it be for white purposes or black purposes, she's still consorting with powers that are not sourced in God. She's consorting with demonic entities for her power. So that's always going to be evil. It's always going to be evil. So that bothered me right off the top, that they made a distinction between the two. But again, this is just fantasy. And in a child's mind, if you frame things as being just fantasy, and that this is a fantasy land that the child knows when he sees it does not exist, that's not quite as harmful and I get into this in that blog on Christian fantasy, it's not quite as harmful as something like Harry Potter, where it's really more or less in pretty much modern times.
Yes.
And now the protagonist in it, who's Harry Potter, the child can relate to. He's a little boy like him living in a world similar to his own world. And that has a much deeper impact on a child than something that is obviously is fantasy and fairy tale. So that's what makes fairy tales different from some of these things, because the child obviously knows that. Because we have to be careful that the minds of young children can't make those distinctions sometimes, even between what's real and what's fantasy. They have a problem with that. And that's where they need our guidance. And I think that a lot could be learned if a parent accompanies a child to see Wicked, and then they have a talk about it later. Like, go out and get some ice cream or something after it. You know you won't get any arguments from them there. Tell them, let's go get some ice cream after this. And you can start to talk about it and start to bring some of these things out, especially before we get into Act 2, before we see, what the whole end of the movie. And let the child get straight in his mind what is good and what is evil, regardless of how it's being presented in this fantasy land.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good idea for a parent, because it teaches a child, number one, how to think.
Yeah.
How to think with a Catholic point of view. That's very important. Rather than just say, no, don't go see it. Let them go see it, but go with them and sit and
go
talk
with
about
them
it and teach them.
And I would recommend, I mean, obviously, the children have got to have reached a level where they can, intellectually evaluate. So I wouldn't probably take any child younger than adolescents. I would take maybe 12-year-olds. I wouldn't take little ones. One of the things that concerns me, though, is that when emotion is tied to memory, the memory becomes ingrained. The memory is something that holds on to it like it's fastened to it. So when they're young, if the sympathy is stimulated for Elphaba, and she's evil, that memory, it has that emotion tied to it. So for kids that can't really reason yet, little ones. And I think that some of the scenes are a little frightening too. I do want to say this though, the acting was superb. The acting was off the charts, superb. Of course, the two lead characters, just tremendous voices. So there was, there's much that is very well done. This is not a schlocky thing. This is a really, really top-notch performance, a top-notch production. But we're talking about the deeper issue of it. So, I'm very eager to see part 2, which probably is in production right now. It's probably being produced, But that being said, I'm eager to see how this ends up. But from what I've seen here, I have those questions. I do want to make a correction. It's Tom Price is actually call screening today. So when you call in, you're not going to talk to Matt. You're going to talk with Tom. And Pedro Quiles is out there on social media. And interestingly enough, Georgia Capozzi out there on YouTube posed a question that you answered, Sue. Is there such a thing as a good witch? And there's a monosyllabic word that answers it, and it's no.
That's it. Absolutely not. There's no such thing as that. There's no such thing as black and white magic. It's all magic. That's all the same. It's all black. It's all black, no matter what you're using it for, because you're using Satan to work your magic and to work your spells and to bring about whatever it is that you want. And as the Catechism teaches, you can look at in sections 2117 and 2118, gives you a good rundown of the use of magic and sorcery. And divination and those sorts of things, and you're going to find out that really what this is the hidden desire to control people.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what this is all about. You're just trying to control others, and we're not supposed to be doing that. We're supposed to give people their freedom. And I looked up the Wicked Part 1 rating is PG, so it's really for kids 7 and older.
Yeah.
So it does have a PG rating. There is no real terribly violent things in here. I think that one scene where they're running down the hallway and the flying monkeys are banging like through the windows and stuff, that got a little scary. But I didn't see anything that was all that violent in the movie. It was just an awful lot of singing, and it was just so well done. I had no idea that Ariana Grande sang that well.
I know.
Because that's really her voice.
Yeah.
She was hitting those high notes, and I thought, whoa.
Yeah.
She was very good in that. So that stuff is just well worth watching. And if you do want to go with your children, I mean, our blog, if you read it, will kind of point out the things that maybe you want to discuss with them and point out to them. This is this is the way things are as far as good and evil. And there really is no such thing as a good witch or a bad witch, because this is where they're getting their power from.
Yeah.
And then you get the questions from them. They'll say things like, well, Mommy, why would anybody want to go to Satan for that? And you should say to the child, very good question, dear. Why would they want to do that? Because they're being tempted. And this is one of the ways that the devil, most popular way of his to manifest is through, good old-fashioned temptation. That's what works. All the extraordinary manifestations that you see in Hollywood movies, he would rather not do that because that gives him away. He loves to hide behind things because he wants you to think he doesn't really exist, and the people who think he does are just marginal, kind of weird. This is what he wants. So he tempts you.
There is that one scene that led, subsequently, it's not shown, led to the conception of Alphaba. And it was rather, I thought it was rather ribald. It was,
that's true. Yep.
Yeah, it wasn't,
when
she was not very.
Having that affair.
Yeah, that was kind of, I didn't care for that. I mean, I didn't even care for that as an adult. But, that's just
and some people thought, well, I didn't like that either, because I thought her husband was so nice and kind to her, and then the minute he leaves the house, she does this terrible thing. I think, boy, you're pretty mean.
Yeah, and she's getting drunk with this other guy. I mean, it's like, oh, God.
Yeah, that was there. And one thing they said that might disturb children too is the scene with the little animal in the cage. Yes. And how when the man would tap on the cage, the little animal would whimper with fear. That's very distressing to children when they see animals that are hurting.
Yes.
That's very disturbing to them. Some of those commercials that are on looking for, money and donations and stuff like that. I know that my little nieces and nephews are horrified by that. It's terrible. So that's been cited as something in the movie. Parental review type websites were saying that could be distressing to a child. But see, they're missing the whole good and evil part of it. They're missing all that. And they're missing the fact that they are going to a school to learn sorcery.
See,
can you explain what sorcery is,
Yeah, and that's the other side of it. The fact that that's not mentioned is an indication of how the cultural mind has been saturated with this to the point where, that is considered not so bad. It's an option. If that does it for you, it's fine. But we're very afraid today, as a culture, to take a stand on anything that we would be objectionable, would be in opposition to the moral order. We don't take it because either we've succumbed to the relativism of the day and time, or because we fear, that we're going to be marginalized in some way, canceled, considered to be phobic in some manner. Just put the front end on it for transphobic, homophobic, occult phobic. Just put it on there, So, yeah, I think that kind of gives us an indication, right? That none of that's mentioned. That would have been mentioned in another point in time, I think. Well, here we are. We've talked our way through this program, Sue. I've enjoyed it immensely. And I hope all of you have too. Encouraging you once again to listen tomorrow for this extravaganza where we have an opportunity to meet the EWTN team. I am wishing all of you and you, Sue, a very blessed, holy, happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy family, enjoy friends, but most of all, enjoy God and the blessings He gives us. And be sure to appropriately thank Him and praise Him for all of His graces that He bestows upon us so abundantly. So I hope that you eat a lot of turkey bird. Don't worry if you have an extra piece of pumpkin pie. I hear on good authority there are no calories in Thanksgiving meals. God bless all of you. Bye-bye now.
The most original and exclusive Catholic content is on EWTN Radio.
This is Dr. Ray Guarendi from The Doctor Is In. You call in and we will talk about what matters to you in your life.